I was working as a civil engineer until 2008. The crash happened and I found myself unemployed in a reasonably fairly dark place. I was on the dole. My wife is a dentist and she was buying a brand of scrubs, Koi, from the US. She contacted Koi and said, look, is there any distributors in UK or Ireland? So that sparked an idea. It inspired me to reach out and say, I'm a distributor of healthcare uniforms in UK and Ireland. Can I have some samples, please?
Danny Plewman, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So, Happy Threads, what is it? Who are the customers? And kind of how big you are, whatever you're kind of comfortable sharing around the business.
Okay, we are an e-commerce business. We work in several markets, Ireland, UK, France, and we've just launched Spanish and German markets. We supply healthcare uniforms, scrubs, to healthcare professionals, nurses, dentists, vets, and any other healthcare professionals that need scrubs.
So it's a B2C business, right? So you sell directly to the nurses and the dentists and whoever's buying them.
Yeah, primarily B2C. We also sell B2B. We have wholesale customers, and we supply HSE. We're supplying the National Children's Hospital, and that, funnily enough, is actually on a B2C basis.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to adapt our technology to where we agreed with the hospital itself what the uniform should be. We actually supply each individual with the correct agreed style of uniform with the logos and embroideries as required.
And so why scrubs? I suppose, how did you end up doing this?
I ended up doing this. I was working as a civil engineer until 2008. And the crash happened and I found myself unemployed in a reasonably fairly dark place. I was on the dole and trying to work out what to do. There was very little happening in the construction world in 2008, 2009, 2010. And what happened was my wife is a dentist and she was buying a brand of scrubs, Koi, from the US, which she was able to do. She got shipped to a friend, they got shipped to Ireland, a bit convoluted. So she contacted Koi and said, look, is there any distributors in UK or Ireland? And they replied, we're currently looking for some. Could you recommend someone? So that sparked an idea. Around that time, we had just been to the US, and Ireland was a fairly depressing place back then, and the US just seemed to have a lot of positive energy. It was around the time Barack Obama was coming into power. There was very much a yes we can attitude, and I think that sort of infectious attitude it inspired me to reach out and say, I'm a distributor of healthcare uniforms in UK and Ireland. Can I have some samples, please? And that's really how it started. I went door to door. Initially worked from a spare room in Stoneybatter, north inner city Dublin. Went down to the dole queue I think it was a Thursday morning. Banged on people's doors until they just agreed to buy scrubs from me. And it grew from there. We set up a website, I was very fortunate to get a bank loan from Bank of Ireland at that stage.
Because at that time, like, it was a credit crunch, right? There was there was no lending. So how did that work?
I was very lucky. I had a bank manager who believed in me. And I got help from the Dublin City Enterprise Board, who were fantastic. I mean, I think they were really going beyond at that time the amount of assistance they gave, not just financial, but also regarding courses and networking groups. There was a great network at the time, people of, with positive energy trying to set up businesses, and we were all scraping together and any money we could find. But Yeah, so it was an interesting, exciting time. And with the help of grant and a loan, we got our website launched. And yeah, I guess it started from there. The objective was always to be an e-commerce business. And that's really where the focus was.
If you don't mind, could we go back to, I suppose, around the time when you had lost your job and construction, there was no construction happening anymore, and because it sounds a little bit like there was an element, given how different this is to what you were doing previously, it sounds like there was an element of desperation, if you don't mind me saying so, or something at that moment. Can you just talk a little bit about that time and what it was like for you personally before you kind of got going with the business?
Yeah, it was. I mean, even the I suppose the couple of months leading up to me being redundant or fired or whatever way you want to look at it, that was really tough. That was really tough. It was a scary time. The projects were just being shelved, and companies were adopting aggressive approaches to move staff. It was a tough time, and there was nothing on the horizon, in that field. So you look at my wife was at the time she was studying, so I just had to, by hook or by crook, keep in employment until she finished her studies. Then we went to the US briefly, and I think that's where the change happened, and I've just came back from that trip a lot more positive.
Where in the US were you?
We were in Denver. I was staying with my uncle there, and we drove down through to Las Vegas, actually, very briefly, and then we actually flew out of there then to Central America. So we were only in the US for a week, 10 days. But I think it was long enough.
It's kind of powerful though, isn't it? The US, like the culture is so positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're I suppose a cynical way to look at it, you could say as an Irish person, oh, they're too positive, or some of them are delusional, or something. But there is something about that culture that kind of gives you an energy for this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was an infectious positivity, and we like to think that Ireland was the only country affected by the financial crash in 2008, 2009, but no, we weren't. There were many countries also. Most of the world, I think, was also messed up, and but yeah, the positivity was infectious. And you're right. Sometimes it might be slightly delusional, but maybe that's not a bad way to be.
No, I definitely agree with that. And did you? You said you were made redundant, which you clearly were, right? Because there was no work in this area for years and years afterwards, which is why we're in such a difficult situation with housing today. But uh, you were made redundant, and then you corrected yourself and said, "Oh, I was fired." Was there? Did you take this in any way personally, rather than this is just this is happening to everyone?
Yeah, you do. You do. I mean, I suppose, if someone says there's no work here, we're making staff redundant, is one thing. If someone says you're being fired because you're not performing, that's a different thing. And yeah, you do, of course, take it personally. Yeah. I remember the weekend it happened. Yeah, I mean, it was, and yeah, it's a real kick in the teeth, and it's you ask yourself a lot of questions. Yeah.
Did you ever see yourself starting a business? Let's say the financial crash never happened, and it's a bit talking about delusion. I don't know, we're kind of living in dreamland here, but had it never happened, do you think that you'd still be doing that?
It's possible I could continue to be a very average career, and that's being honest. Any of my previous employers would probably agree with that. So yeah, I mean, in a way, it was a blessing. Maybe it was a blessing that happened, gave me the impetus. I mean, it was something that was possibly always within me, and I just needed that kick to get it going. I had done a little bit of stuff when I was in college, making t-shirts, selling t-shirts, and that sort of design, those colors, that thing had always attracted me. Um, I think back in when I was going to college, marketing may not have been seen as a serious job, so I was guided more towards the engineering profession. Um, back in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't a lot of jobs in Ireland, so you were sort of guided towards a profession. Um, yeah, I think in many ways that was the kick up the backside I needed.
Do you regret in any way doing engineering?
Yes and no. I learned a lot from it. Had I started a business and gone through the Celtic Tiger, it may not have gone very well, Smithy. I may have made some money and completely blown it without responsibilities of wife or children. And God knows what I would have ended up doing. So maybe it was good that I started my journey as an entrepreneur a little bit later in life.
How many staff do you have in the business currently?
There's 25.
25. So you've grown significant. It's now a proper business from you kind of being out on your own on the dole, essentially, trying to get people to buy your scrubs. It's kind of grown into this business. I'm wondering, do you think you could have done that not having had the background you had? And I suppose, was engineering in any way, did it in any way inform your kind of growth as you went?
I guess problem solving. I think engineers are problem solvers, and as a business owner, an entrepreneur, problem solving is a lot of what we end up doing. So yes, I think from that aspect, yeah, it probably has been a help.
Have you taken on any additional finance from after the grants and the bank loan at the start? Have you taken on any kind of equity or anything?
Really, no. I mean, at the early years, yeah. I mean, I was in the first couple of years, I was trying to scrape any money every way. I remember going into the Dublin City Enterprise Board. The guy there, Greg Swift, he's a really nice guy. And at one stage, he said, I was putting in yet another application, and he said, "Look, Dan, I need to talk to you here. You've had every type of grant available here. We can only go so far. And you've got to stand on your own 2 feet now." And I thought, well, fair enough. I've gone through the whole list. And yeah, with the banks, mainly Bank of Ireland, actually, I had loans at the start, but since then, no, we're now completely debt free.
What way does the industry work? Is it, because in my mind I'm thinking you have to buy the stock up front and then sell it on the back end, so you've got that cash flow potential.
That's
issue.
the wonderful thing about e-commerce, is that you don't necessarily have the same cash ratios because people are paying when they purchase, whereas and I suppose legacy businesses where you sent invoices and you got paid 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or whatever, whenever the person felt like paying you, that would have been a lot different. So I was lucky in that sense that having that positive cash flow allowed us to grow without. I mean, there were pressures. There were points. There was a time when I was technically bankrupt, but that model certainly made it easier.
So you get credit terms essentially on buying the stock, and then you can sell it and get cash in.
Yeah.
I see.
You can negotiate credit terms on buying the stock. Now, I guess the important part of e-commerce is being able to ship the maximum amount of orders that day or the next day. So having that stock there is obviously key. Doesn't always happen, but we try and hit that as much as possible. And that's, I think, from 15 years ago to now, it's changed, but that is the expectation now. It's pretty much next day.
Like, I think it's easy to forget how different the world was even before COVID from an e-commerce point of view. Because I'm thinking, when you're telling me, oh, I started, selling scrubs online, it's kind of like, why? It just seems like this was the most obvious thing in the world if it wasn't being done. And what was so special maybe about these particular scrubs, and why weren't they available?
Two excellent questions. Look, I guess 16 years ago when we set this up, there weren't people supplying scrubs weren't focused on e-commerce. They were maybe legacy businesses working on the 30, 60 days credit. And the second point is that the style of scrubs my wife found in the US, it was a fairly new style. And the market here at that stage was reasonably stagnant. And this was a scrub that was based on comfort, on fashion, on style, on choice of colors, and very much moving with fashion, as opposed to what was previously available would have been more focused on price and it'll last forever. And we found that people were prepared to fork out their own money to be comfortable at work, and that became our motto: be happy at work. And I think that was part of our initial success, where people were going, actually, I like to wear these. These are actually comfortable, and I wear them at home. I don't want to take them off, as opposed to previous traditional uniform types, which would be the very stiff 65, if you're lucky, to 100% polyester, rigid, sweaty, uncomfortable garments. So that really was where the opportunity was. So there were two opportunities. One was doing it via e-commerce, and the other one was providing a product that wasn't readily available. It is now. There are lots of people selling similar products. I'd say not as good, but
is it? Do you have a kind of a sole distributorship for this particular brand?
For this particular brand, yeah. For the brand Koi, we have exclusively in the UK and Ireland.
And were they on? I'm kind of, and I don't know too much about scrubs, but I've never worn them or anything. But like if you saw the scrubs, let's say on Grey's Anatomy in and around that time, those doctors, now they're obviously very good looking doctors and all the rest of it, but they looked cooler, for want of a better expression.
Yeah, well, that was it. It was basically bringing that product that you would see on the US TV programs, bringing that product here. That's exactly what it was. And we actually, a couple of years after we launched, managed to get them onto some of the BBC programs, Casualty and Holby City, and gradually that recognition, having that brand there, even though obviously you don't see the brand because they take the labels off, but just the fact that it's on the telly, people can see, well, maybe that's a normal thing to wear. That style, that level of comfort is something we should be aspiring to in our workplace.
Did the kind of confidence thing, I suppose, kind of being let go, and all the challenges and personal things about being on the dole and everything, did that in any way impact your ability to move forward? I know you had a week in the US and that had rubbed off, but it could. I'm just thinking, did you kind of have a feeling that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm thinking, was the mindset, I have to make this work, or was the mindset, I don't know if this is going to work, I just there's nothing else I can do? What was your kind of thinking at that stage?
Yeah, okay, so a couple of things there. I suppose, first of all, construction industry is quite an aggressive, macho environment. You go onto a building site, you're not hugging people, not giving people flowers, and it can be quite intimidating. And people get humiliated regularly. Like at the bollocking is very, very commonplace in public. And I always said, if I ever start my own business, I will not tolerate any form of humiliation, and I've kept that, hopefully. So, and then your second point, then, yes, it had to work because I didn't have any other options. I think if someone had started this business now, even if I had started the business, I probably would have given up after a year and a half because there was no salary for a couple of years. Now, luckily, as my career as an engineer ended, so did my wife's education. So she started working there. So at least we had an income. We had some way of paying the mortgage. But at the time, I had to keep going because there was nothing else.
At what stage did it feel? How long did it take before you thought, "Oh, this is pretty good now. It's working."
I guess the first thing you learn to do is you try and get the accounts to break even, and you kind of get it to break even year two. But then there's someone said to me, "But that's breaking in, but you're not taking any salary, so you're effectively not breaking it. You're losing money because you should be taking a salary here." So it took a couple of years to get to that point. And I suppose like many others, once you start employing people, they get paid first.
Yeah.
So it was a few years before I could reliably predict that I'm going to get paid this month.
Yeah. And was it a relief at that stage? Was it kind of like, oh, thank God?
You're kind of nervously kind of like, well, I'll take a salary now, but sure, I might have to give it back next week, maybe for something else.
Yeah.
So I think just gradually it gradually sinks in, and but there were scary moments, and there were all sorts of tricks you had to do to pay people, cashing checks, lodging a check in a bank that you knew was going to bounce on the Monday, but people got paid on the Friday. And I know at one stage I was deemed to be technically bankrupt. It was my non-executive director advisor said, "Yeah, you're actually bankrupt right now, and if anyone could see these accounts as they are now, they would close you down." So, and luckily I had very, very good advisor, and we worked through it.
Was it a cash flow thing, kind of? Or
yeah, classic. I think a classic startup cash flow problem. It was probably a little bit more than cash flow as well, but that was, I suppose, fundamentally the main thing. And I think my understanding is a lot of startups fail because of cash flow, even though they may well actually be businesses that should work.
Yeah,
just cash flow.
Can't get paid. It's always a challenge. And so your non-exec director, where did they come from, and how did that kind of relationship start?
Yeah, that's a good question. After a couple of years, especially when the enterprise board had told me to go out on my own and grow up, they had given me mentors throughout the years as well. Some were brilliant. I realized I needed external help, and I started looking around. And funny, when you start looking around in that space in an early stage business, it's interesting the people you come across, and some were very, they slap my back and say, "You're great, you're a great business, you're a great person. This is absolutely great." And I kind of realized that that's not what I need. And I did find one guy who became my advisor, a non-executive director, who would just say, "No, you're an idiot. That's stupid. Don't do that. That's rubbish." And he called me a gobshite. And I just thought, I actually, that's what I need. I need someone to call it straight and not tell me I'm great, but tell me I'm.
Yeah. And then so you've got, let's say that, so there's the bankruptcy. When did this happen? At which point was he saying this to you?
So would have had about 5 or 6 staff at that stage. So probably 2005, maybe 2006.
Okay.
No, sorry, 2015.
Sorry, yeah, so when the business started in
2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking even still kind of, post 5 years later, there's still these kind of
it was saying that. Yeah, it was sure.
But
I on a knife edge.
But that I think that's so important, right? Because that's basically the same thing that everyone says when they come in here, or I'm talking to them. Like it's as if like you think, "Oh, I'll start the business and it'll be like definitely in 4 years, it's going to be flying. But it just doesn't seem to be the case. Even later.
If you look at it every so often, I find an initial business plan I made. It's hilarious. You're a millionaire in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
And then you look back and Jesus, someone actually believed that.
Well, it's but you probably need it, to keep you going, because otherwise, if you thought it was going to be as difficult. Did you have kind of thinking about, and maybe it was when your non-exec came in, but did you think about the future much, or were you kind of stuck in the day-to-day a lot?
I think it's only in the last couple of years started thinking about the future. Yeah. I mean, I think the first 10 years it was, it's sort of survival. I mean, there's all sorts of theories about startups, not lasting 5 years and very few lasting 10 years. So you got all these milestones,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to last 5 years and I'm going to get to 10 years and I'm going to survive. So it's only, I think post 10 years now that, and then, you start thinking about, well, what is this going to look like into the future? What am I going to try and do here?
Is it more fun now? Maybe fun's not the right word, but is it more enjoyable once you get to that point, I suppose?
Yes and no. And I'm guessing that's why people who do stick around businesses, they do kind of enjoy that roller coaster and, that kind of shit. I am bankrupt and how am I going to pay the wages? And it's almost, got the wages paid, got the suppliers paid. So there is, but you probably couldn't do that forever. And actually, I did end up burning out back in about 2017. So yeah, I don't think you can keep. Well, some people can. I think some people thrive on that. But I found myself in a hospital ward, high-dependency unit, and I just remember going out, waking up in the middle of the night and saying, I need to go to the bathroom, and they tried to give me a commode, and I said, no, I'll get up. And it took 10 minutes to untangle all of these monitors that I'd been hooked up to. I went out to the bathroom and walked back in and saw this sign, high-dependency unit, do not enter. And it's just a moment where I said to myself, this is not a great place to be. This is not good.
How did that happen? How did you end up there?
There were two factors, I think. One was lifestyle. I was working ridiculous hours, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also drinking too much, not living a healthy lifestyle. Not healthy at all. Probably ticking many of the boxes. And then I suppose the catalyst was I went sea swimming. A friend of mine said, I'm going sea swimming tomorrow. Do you want to come? I said, yeah. Swam in the pool a few times, did a bit of surfing, it'd be grand. And I wasn't. And I ended up getting hauled out by the lifeboat with hypothermia, and they found an irregular heartbeat, and so I got carted off to hospital and hooked up to every heart monitor measuring device you can imagine.
Wow.
So it was the next morning the consultant came in and he kind of read the report and he said, so you run your own business, your work hours, your lifestyle is not great, your alcohol, I'm seeing, all this list of things. And he said, and you're married and you've 2 kids and you employ 10 people. And he just said, he looked at me and he said, you're not Superman. You need to wise up here. And I kind of thought, we better listen here. So I did. And I changed a few things around. I joined a business networking group called 3 to 5, which was wonderful. It really was an amazing journey with that group to try the concept being that you're, instead of being the owner manager doing everything every hour of the day, you're setting up a business that effectively runs itself without you. And through working through that, I wouldn't say I'm fully there, but I'm certainly well on the way to that. And I mean, I couldn't go for coffee without taking my laptop before, and then it was almost like an addiction. And I got to say, okay, well, I'm going to switch off for an afternoon and then a day and then a week's holiday. And that was a big thing. And then 2 weeks. And last summer, I took 6 weeks off without any communication. Now, that's less to do with me and more to do with a great team. They were absolutely fantastic. And in fact, I took a month off this year, and both years, it was the biggest sales month of the year was the month that I was away. So
good for the ego, or
so I don't know if they're trying to tell me something, I think.
So that's interesting. And the group that you joined, are you still a member of that group?
Normally, unfortunately, they moved from Dublin to Belfast, and I just can't do online online groups. I've joined the EO now, the Entrepreneurs Organization, which I love these networks, these bodies. I think we all need them, and it's the sounding board. It's the place you can go that other people can understand the problems the challenges that you're facing.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. I think that's
well. I think from an outside perspective, looking in at everyone's business, if you were to believe what was on social media and just anything, you would think, God, like, everyone else no one seems to be having, these are only my problems.
Yeah.
And in EO, for example, it's very interesting when you hear someone who's 20 years ahead of you on the journey, and they're having kind of doubts and failures and things they're taking personally, and it's kind of reassuring in a way that everyone's
yeah it is.
And have you found since moving, it's a slightly different setup, I'd imagine, EO to the first network?
To the 3 to 5, yeah, they're very, very different. But I think fundamentally it's the network. It's that place that you can discuss someone else's challenges or your own challenge, and get different perspectives. It's that place to do that. The otherwise the groups are quite different, but I think it's a network. Yeah.
Did you find it difficult taking the doctor's advice?
Yeah, I did. We were going on a holiday shortly after that. I had the kids were very young at the time, and yeah, it was a trying time in our lives. And we had tried 1 or 2 holidays, and they were complete disasters. Came back more exhausted than we went out. Abigail, my wife, booked this place. She said, "We're going here, and you're going to relax." And I was told, I was off drink for a period of time, and she said, "You're going to stay off drink. You're going to drink non-alcoholic beer, and you're just going to be healthy, and we're going to relax." And it actually was the best holiday. Came back, and I just felt connected with her and with the kids. And we've been back to that same place now about 14 times, because it was just somewhere to go, somewhere to relax. And
it sounds, I think we're definitely focusing on the downsides of this whole thing, okay? And I think that it's very important to highlight those, and everyone that comes in here, as I said, has those moments. But along the way, it couldn't have kind of all been bad. Kind of what kept you going, I suppose, throughout.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved. I'd be loving running a business, the excitement, and the challenges. So we have folks, and I absolutely love almost every minute of it. I don't think I could go back to doing anything else.
What's your favorite thing about it?
I guess as now the business evolved a little bit, significance of it is quite important. And I know a couple of years ago, I would leave the building and look back and just kind of go, who the feck put me in charge here? How did this happen? And I think I've accepted it now a little bit more. The significance, and we're at the moment we're onboarding with Medicine Sans Frontier MSF as a partner. That's quite a big investment. It's not going to change the world, but it is a significant investment to their emergency fund, which I guess makes it all feel a little bit more worthwhile that you're actually doing something significant.
By significant, do you mean there's kind of a sense of accomplishment now that you've been through a lot of challenges and actually what you have built and what your team has built around you has been actually, it's something that you're proud of. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it can actually make some some help in with the the emergencies that are going on around the world, it's not just Gaza but Sudan, and many other places, that you're actually able to go, actually we can do something here. And it's funny, I had this conversation with Ruth from MSF that in my head, oh yeah, I'm going to set up a hospital somewhere in Africa, but that's been in my head 5 years now, and it's probably been in my head another 5 years. So maybe I just got to park that for now and actually help out now rather than wait 5 years for something that may or may not ever happen.
But it's so that is kind of when you say it's in your head, it's almost kind of part of it. It's kind of a nagging thing that's not leaving you alone in a way.
Look, I don't, and I think when I had to sort of take a step back, I had to realize, look, I don't need to be Jeff Bezos here. I don't want to be in the race to be the richest man. Never mind the world, never mind Ireland, never mind Dublin, never mind where I live. Do I want to work really hard to keep me a lot of wealth and then have people squabbling over when I die? No, I don't. So I've got to find there's more to life, more to life than that. So I think that's the kind of crossroads where I am now. I don't think anyone ever on their deathbed says, I wish I'd spent more time working. And many people say, I wish I spent more time with my kids. So I'm trying to do that.
Was it a realization at the time? I mean, obviously there was a health scare there, but was it a realization that other things were important to you?
Yeah, it's a real scare. A real scare, and a real wake up that you could end up working 18 hours a day, have effectively someone else rear your kids, and at the end of it, you die. Yeah, it really was. I mean, I still don't get to spend as much time with family as I'd like, but I do get to spend a fair bit of that.
Talk to me about building the team then. So you've 25 people or so now. It was just you initially. What have you learned about kind of building teams and I suppose things like culture, along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been lucky. I do joke to my team sometimes, is when I say, you've had the best sales months ever here, but the one thing I am good at is I'm good at hiring people, and thankfully they have to agree with me. So yeah, I've been very lucky. I've always tried to keep it as flat a culture as possible and minimize hierarchies, and be as accessible as possible. And we do have a culture of that there is no humiliation tolerated, and people are able to communicate with each other and trying to look. It's not perfect, but we try to address issues before they become big issues. Don't always get it right. And I do try and sit down at least once a year with everyone, and just try and get what's going on, and again, I think that's the beauty of a smaller organization. I think as the organization, if it becomes too big, well, then you might lose that connectedness.
Was getting good at hiring something that you had to get good at, or is it something that you kind of just by nature or nurture or whatever happened along the way that you have a natural kind of affinity for it?
I don't know. It's not. I mean, I don't know that I have any secrets, and I don't know that I'm particularly good or thorough or anything else at interviewing. I think it's been partly luck.
It's always, I think, with someone where something comes quite naturally to them, it's kind of hard to ask them what their process is because they're like, oh, I don't know, I just, I like them or whatever else. So it's always difficult if you haven't maybe learned something in a real hard way. It's always kind of harder to get the system, if you like.
Maybe. My wife is very good. Abigail is very good. She's very good at people and understanding people. And, sometimes I'll be putting my head and she'll kind of explain, well, they're thinking like this. So if you address that, well, then maybe. She's a great sounding board for that. Yeah, I really couldn't put my finger on it. And it is partly luck, and maybe there's an instinct there that I'm not aware of. I don't know. But I do have a great team. And thankfully, touch wood, a very low staff turnover rate. So fingers crossed, keep it that way.
How important are the sounding boards? So I suppose your wife, your chairperson, are non-exec. I suppose you mentioned networks as well. How important have they been for you over the years?
Yeah, really important. I mean, it's John Heenan in the 3 to 5 has been a wonderful influencer, and my managing director John McMahon has been fantastic. Keeps me on the straight and narrow. And then having the sounding boards, and having people to call us straight and sort of tell you, I don't think you're happy with that. Sort of you question it. I mentioned my wife as well. She's fantastic at that. Yeah, I think maybe just not being afraid to ask the question and having that place where you can go and say, I don't know.
Yeah. You're thinking a lot about AI at the moment and how that's going to impact your business. Without giving too much away, I suppose, to competitors that might be listening to this or whatever, what way are you kind of thinking about that, and what way might you introduce bits of AI?
It's a fascinating question. I did probably what maybe many others, hopefully some others did anyway, a couple of months ago, and told all the staff, get me some AI here. Let's get AI into this business. So without having any idea what it was and what it was all about. So we've evolved a little bit from that point, to getting to the place of where it actually can help, where we can grow the business. I think there's a lot of fear as well. People are initially going, well, am I going to lose my job here? And it's not a matter of displacement. It's a matter of perhaps changing the outlook and allowing the business to grow in a sustained manner. And I have mixed feelings about it. Part of me thinks, well, we have to be on that bandwagon, because if we're not, others will, and we're going to be left behind. And then I suppose it's a funny old thing, isn't it? In the Western world, we spent a lot of time trying to reduce our carbon emissions, and we're all driving electric cars now, and now we're saying, but we need to increase our carbon emissions to power these artificial brains that can give me an itinerary if I want to go to Budapest for the weekend in a matter of seconds. Do we really need it? And I don't know, in 5 years' time, will there be businesses advertising themselves as, we are real people, no AI? Is it, maybe it will go that way? Will movies in 5 years' time be real actors shot with real cameras?
Well, it's like, that's interesting. I saw a movie years ago. It could have been 8 years ago in the cinema, and it had Robin Wright, who plays Jenny in Forrest Gump, right? And she's been in obviously other things too, but that's what I most kind of recognize her for. And the concept of the movie was this, that they were going to take photos of her, and everything, and then I can't remember the name of the movie, but she ends up as a cartoon in the end. It was boring at the end, I thought, but it was very fascinating. I was like, God, like this, this would never happen, but it's an interesting kind of look at things. And now I think there's going to be a movie that there are no real actors in it, as such. Like that, there's no way around that. But I know there's there's something kind of unsatisfying about it. Like when I was asking you about the kind of networks there and the sounding board, like I can go to ChatGPT and I can actually get some really good uh whether it be technical input into something. Like so I've never had Instagram, and then I've started promoting the podcast now that we have video on on Instagram, right? And I don't know how to post. I don't know what the who do you tag or just all this stuff, right? I have no idea how to use it. So I started like asking. I was asking my wife, and she was kind of giving me some, but I probably could have got a better answer from ChatGPT. Sorry, Molly, if you stick to this, right? But I don't know if it would have been as satisfying for me getting it from a computer. It's hard to. I don't think it's ever, for me anyway. I don't want it to replace people who I know and trust. And maybe that's stupid of me, because if I'm getting the correct answer from the machine, maybe that's what I should be going with. But there's something about it that just doesn't. I don't know. It's something that I'm just left kind of unsatisfied by it.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you can, I suppose, you can replicate a persona. I think you can say, be Jeff Bezos and answer the questions as if you were Jeff Bezos, and ask your AI your AI agent to tell you how to live your life as if you were asking, or someone who's written a lot of books or something. So,
like you said earlier about, and I don't know if this is related, but that you don't want to do Zoom for your network group, basically, or you don't want to do it digitally. Is that to do you prefer just to be in person? Is that a human thing?
I think so, yeah. I find my mind wanders. I look at a screen, I'm checking my phone, checking my email, and there's things popping up, and I'm distracted, and I find it very difficult to focus on, and I would avoid like the plague. And if someone says there's a great conference on something here, or there's a great course, and it's all digital, it's all remote, no interest. I it's just not something I enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me anyway, when COVID happened, and I was like, finally, someone will get on a Zoom call with me. I don't have to travel in, and I was like, I basically went 100% all in, and you had to, and everyone else had to as well. I was like, this is great. I never had to see another human being again. And since coming out of COVID, I just have PTSD over the whole thing. It's I hate doing now a podcast, over Zoom or something, because I just don't feel I get the same enjoyment out of it or whatever. So, Danny Plewman, thank you very much for coming in and having this chat. What does the future hold for you, and what are you kind of thinking about over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I suppose the future, looking at growing our markets, looking at new markets, which I find really exciting, and continuing to grow the team. We're probably looking at a new premises. So there's quite a few exciting projects on the horizon.
Danny Plewman, thank you very much for coming in. I've very much enjoyed the chat. We talked a lot about the difficulties and everything. And I'm sorry that your challenges were for my enjoyment today. But really great conversation, and wish you the best of luck with everything in the future.
Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.